I'm Shari Frilot, and I'm Senior Programmer at Sundance Film Festival and Curator of New Frontier.
Can you talk a little bit how virtual reality has impacted this festival over the last couple of years?
Well, we saw it in its infancy in 2012 when Nani de la Peña, the journalist, brought her piece Hunger in Los Angeles, and she was working with a 19-year-old named Palmer Luckey, who was working on a virtual reality prototype. And she was interested in telling, she's a journalist, and so she's interested in telling the news in an immersive way. So she partnered with Palmer to figure out how to tell a fully immersive story in VR about a hunger line in Los Angeles where a gentleman fell out from a diabetic coma. And so that happened in 2012, and we took the chance of presenting it, knowing that only one person can see it at a time every 10 minutes. We were terrified about, are we going to just make audiences really mad, or are they going to come, are they even going to try? But I think people were just so grateful to know that this was a direction that a storyteller would take. I think the right people saw it and wrote a lot about it. And Palmer took that success and did that Kickstarter to raise money to create a consumer version. And as soon as that $250,000 Kickstarter raised him $2.5 million, I went right back to him and asked him, so what have you got content-wise for your Oculus Rift? And so we met several times and with a couple of people in the company and looked at the work and put up together the lineup that I felt was relevant to our film festival audiences. I included one game, but several other more storytelling-oriented work. And then 3 months later, Facebook bought it. So that was, I realized, I know 16 or 15 is going to be, more VR works are going to cross my desk and cross my path. And it's kind of like growing up together, I've been watching this from the cradle to where it is, kind of like ready to jump into the pool of the marketplace.
What role you see virtual reality playing with filmmakers today?
Well, filmmakers are very interested and they're very drawn to this medium. I think the powerful quality of immersion that VR delivers is really, really interesting to filmmakers, because cinema is about the immersive experience within a theater, and that you can have it even more penetrating, more visceral. I think it's a medium that filmmakers are having a very hard time not walking to it as like a moth to the light, like really want to experience and see what they can do. Now, in terms of the role of filmmakers in the VR landscape at large, well, right now, VR has been embraced by the gaming community and enthusiastic, and it's really exciting. And filmmakers and storytellers are just kind of getting started. This show at New Frontier this year is a kind of historic moment where it's just getting started. We're really just seeing the very beginning touches of storytellers using VR and creating stories. But there's every indication that will continue in a pretty muscular way. There are a couple of companies that are announcing here at the festival studios that will be focusing on creating content for VR. So the points of access to content is organized very differently than points of access to films that is designed by the film industry. So that also may very well create new opportunities, and very likely create new opportunities for filmmakers who are especially working independently, can make their work available as an app, as opposed to going through a movie company to make it available for distribution. So really, it's very significant to the world of filmmaking, and particularly independent filmmaking, what VR might have in store for future careers.
What impact do you see companies like Facebook and Sony getting behind VR, Samsung as well, having on VR as a medium for filmmakers of all types?
Well, there's a certain validating quality to it, but I think also there's just the resource and experience that these companies and the financial power and infrastructure providing something that's quite experimental at this stage, I think signals not so much a validation, let's say. I'll take that back. It's really more, it kind of paves the way for others to make the leap, for this medium. It's important that Facebook bought it because people know what Facebook is. They didn't maybe know what virtual reality was, but that Facebook bought virtual reality creates an awareness of what virtual reality even is. So, like on the basic level of pop culture awareness, it really helps that. Companies like Sony, companies like Fox, companies like Samsung, they have infrastructures that they're invested in, bringing things to market. So, that they can be there to work with the content creators to get things finished and to pick up the slack, financially, to make sure that works get made and advertised, because let's also remember anything that you're trying to put out there that's telling a story also has to be marketed. So that all that experience of marketing and distribution, will be tapped to grow this field of virtual reality.